Senator Douglas.
Present.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Here.
Representative Hart.
Here.
Chairman Meredith.
Present. And we do have a quorum, duly constituted to do business. First item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes of November 13th meeting of the committee. Is there a motion? There is a motion and a second. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Total number of items on the agenda today are 287 in the amount of $293,048,246.79. All vendors are registered with the Secretary of State's office. Next is the deferred list, which is from the November routine MOA pink list, is Department of Local Government. If representatives are here, please come forward. Identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Chair, Meredith, members. Matthew Stevens, I'm General Counsel at Department for Local Government. We have a staff member trying to come in remotely as well. Hope he can participate.
Well, thank you for being here this morning. Appreciate making yourself available to us. Senator Boswell has questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here today. Yes, so this is number 20 on the Department of Local Government, having to do with land acquisition. It says, and I know it's a very brief summary, but for somebody who's sitting up here and have a lot of experience in construction and developing real estate and properties, this caught my attention. It just says provide funds to acquire the property located at 2271 Highway 30 West for the construction of 20 single-family housing units, and it says essentially what I read when I read this. It says that this property is being acquired at a cost of $300,000 for one individual property lot. So we call this in. We need to hear more about this.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, I appreciate the opportunity to come over and explain and give answers to your questions. So the city of Jackson will use the $6 million to not only acquire 57 acres outside the floodplain in Breathitt County, they're going to subdivide it into lots for construction of initially 17 to 20 homes for low to moderate income disaster impacted persons. The funds will also be used for infrastructure, including water and sewer, and roadway expansion to accommodate emergency vehicles and school buses. This is basically a development of entire community. The City of Jackson will be partnering with Housing Development Alliance, HDA. The size of the property, 57 acres, you talked about the acquisition, allows for future development of the site as well. So initially it's going to be 17 to 20 homes. The city has plans to expand, and it's a larger effort of the city's development of multiple sites for affordable housing and resilient housing stock there in Jackson after the deadly floods.
So let's follow up. So you're saying here that the description we have in this particular one from last month is not accurate then, because it says here that it's for 20 single family. You're saying now it's much more. It's actually 57 acres, and it's involving a whole lot more. So this essentially the information we had from last month really probably should have been a whole lot more details.
Yeah, that's just a small snapshot of the entire project. Like I said, it's 57 acres, initially 17 to 20 homes, and the city has plans to expand.
Okay, in this month's, we also had not that we have it on the pull list, but we have an additional project in the same, and also in Jackson now. And so is this part of the same
It's part of the same Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program. That's part of the $297 million that the Commonwealth received from Housing Urban Development. It's all federal funds.
Okay. Well, I think that satisfies me for now. I would just say, though, I think this might be an example of federal funds flowing to the state that we're going to have to get our fund. Look, this was a disaster relief, and I'm sure some of these funds, a lot of these funds were necessary, but as with any federal program, it seems like everything involved with the federal government costs a whole lot more money. Thank you for your explanation.
Thank you, Senator.
If no one else here, I'm okay with that.
Any other questions, comments? Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Excuse me. Next order of business, consideration of the agenda, including the deferred list, personal service contract list, PSC amendment list, memorandum of agreement list, and the memorandum of agreement amendment list, except for those items selected for further review. Do you have a motion to consider the contracts review?
Second.
Chair Hart, second by aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. First item on the pull list are with the Transportation Office of Secretary, and our numbers 7 through 10 on the PSC less than $10,000 and under goldenrod list. If representatives are here, please come forward, identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. Laura Hagan, Director of the Division of Purchases for Transportation.
Are you flying solo this morning?
No, Ryan, are you on?
Yes. Good morning. Ryan Fisher with the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety.
Thank you for joining this morning. I would ask you all if you would please raise your right hand. And do you solemnly swear to tell them the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate you being available to us this morning. I request these contracts to be pulled. Not that I have an issue with them, but it's kind of interesting for me that this is a study that we're engaging folks to do the NHTSA EMS assessment, which more healthcare related, I think, than transportation related. And I understand this is a federal requirement to gather this data, this information. But my question is what happens after this project is completed?
We receive a report, a final report through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and the assessment identifies a lot of different ways. NHTSA is their main mission is to prevent fatalities on the roadways, and that's kind of goes along with the Highway Safety Office as well. But there's a lot of areas where if we can decrease the time it takes at the crash scene with EMS and things, it helps to reduce secondary crashes, and it prevents fatalities. And it's just us working with emergency medical services and identifying partnerships to get them some areas and to where they can receive more funding to help clear crash scenes faster and get there and get it cleaned up quicker.
How often is this study required?
We had a management review a year ago, and this was a recommendation from NHTSA, and it was using their funding, their 402 funding. It's not actually required. There's no set time frame. It's just it's just a recommendation when they identify that there's needs in that area.
Well, there's definitely need, and my reason for pulling these contracts, it's not a gotcha kind of moment. It's something I'm very interested in because the biggest cause of death for folks under the age of 45 in Kentucky, trauma, and principal problem there are highway crashes, accidents. So this certainly has some applicability to our Commonwealth. But again, I'm just curious, once we get the data, what do we do with it? And one of the issues we have is lack of trauma services in our rural areas. Certainly the issues of trauma related to car accidents are more pronounced in rural areas because of our secondary roads primarily. So I'm just trying to understand what we do with this information once we have it. Does this, I assume there's a federal funding that's tied to this, associated with this?
Chairman, can you hear me? This is Bill Bell. I'm also with the Office of Highway Safety. We actually had someone from the Kentucky Hospital Association speak on the trauma side. They have several recommendations, and we would love to have someone, either Senator Meredith or someone from the legislature, to review these recommendations as well. I know Senator Meredith has a lot of experience, obviously, in this area.
I certainly do. Again, that's the reason I pulled the contracts. I've got a little interest in it because it's a major problem with our healthcare delivery system is the lack of resources available. But it's a twofold problem. One is a lack of healthcare resources, but secondly is a condition of secondary roads throughout rural Kentucky, and had to be addressed by two different groups. And again, I'm just trying to understand, once you collect the data, how it's disseminated and what does it result in. I would hope there'd be some specific recommendations to address the trauma situation. And just for the committee's information, we passed a trauma legislation back in 2008 to establish trauma centers throughout Kentucky, and we've never funded that legislation. And if we're going to have this data and not do anything with it, I'm not sure what the value is of collecting the data. And so that's one side of it. But secondly, does this result in additional funding for rural secondary roads? Because we know that's a problem.
Well, the main recipient of these recommendations is the Kentucky Board of EMS, and then all of their partners as well. And I'll have, Ryan can definitely send you the report as soon as possible. But as far as secondary rural roads, that would be a question more for the State Highway Engineer's Office. And so we can share that report with them as well, and management at Transportation Cabinet.
Well, I guess that may be the next step, and I would appreciate receiving that report and see what the recommendations are, and maybe we can move forward from there. But again, I was just trying to understand how the data is used and what the expectations are once we receive it. But I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Any questions, comments from other committee members? Representative Pollock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just sitting here listening to this dialogue back and forth, and Mr. Chairman, you bring up a valid point here. We do data, we do consulting, we spend a lot of money, and what do we do with the data? So it's important to have this conversation that we're having right now, because if we're going to spend the dollars to provide the data, if we're going to spend the dollars to do consultations, bring the people to the table to take action on this data that we're getting. And you made a great point, sir, in providing Senator Meredith to the table, an invite there, and to take this data and to do something with it. And I think that's where the ball gets dropped. The follow-up after we provide this type of information, which is valid, is very important information that we can better our trauma through EMS and all those type of activities and experiences. But, I mean, somebody just needs to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and bring people to the table, and let's do something with this data. Let's do something with this consultation, these dollars that we're spending. And so I appreciate what's being brought forth to us this morning already. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate those remarks. And, it's multifactoid. First is the conditions of secondary roads throughout Kentucky. Speeding is always a problem in rural Kentucky. The issue of lack of trauma centers is a problem, but also EMS, part of the response time is that there's not enough EMS workers to transport people on a timely basis. So how do we address that one as well? But it's a big issue, and I'll look forward to the report, and I'll be glad to share that with our
Mr.
other
Chair.
committee members as well.
One more comment, please. This brings a good point for me to. I am sponsoring a distracted driving bill this coming session, and obviously wanted to have some co-sponsors on that. But seriously, that is one of the leading causes of fatalities on our Kentucky highways is distracted driving. Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Any other committee members want to promote their legislation for this next session? Not at this time. All right. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? There being none, I entertain a motion to approve these contracts.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Motion seconded by Representative Chester Burton. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Yes, the whole section, all 7 through 10. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed will vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you for being available to us. We appreciate it. Next item on the pull list with the Auditor of Public Accounts is number 1 on the routine PSC green list. Representatives are here. Good to see you folks this morning. If you would, please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Lauren Ferguson, Chief of Staff to Auditor Allison Ball.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Alex McGarrah from Auditor Ball's Office, General Counsel.
Pleasure having you both here this morning. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Senator Douglas has questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Regarding this particular contract, a few things sort of stuck out with me. It's going to be a performance review, and it says here that we're going to identify, let's see here, gaps in the performance, publicly available material, and gathering audited entities' internal materials. Could you help me out a little bit with what that means?
Absolutely, Senator. So if I could take a step back here, the General Assembly passed House Bill 825, which is, quite frankly, one of the most historic education audit bills probably in the Commonwealth's history. Never has there been a full-scale performance review of the Kentucky Department of Education. And to me, it signals that the General Assembly is extremely serious about making sure that Kentuckians have the best education possible, which aligns greatly with Auditor Ball's mission, which is the same. This audit is going to try to take a comprehensive look at as much of KDE as possible. The auditor's office has the ability to look at a lot of internal information that the public can't see, obviously. We don't have the same Open Records Act constraints on us. We have subpoena authority. We have full authority to access whatever information we want. So we're able to see when we talk about internal documents and sort of the internal processes that KDE is performing, we're able to go in and look at a lot of information that the public is not, in order to determine a wide variety of aspects of KDE's operational practices, their internal decision making on curriculum, their sort of their relationship with the public, their relationship with school districts. We can look at just a ton of information that normally isn't available to the public to really get a good sense of how they're performing and whether they're truly doing what's best for Kentucky.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, may I ask one more thing? I'll make it.
Yes, please.
As we move on down the description of this particular contract, it also says conducting surveys of relevant constituent groups, both inside and outside of the audited entities, including educators, parents, and local school district and administrators. will those questions be in isolation? As I know that at least some of the teachers that I have spoken with have been very, very, very reluctant to be open and share
Yes.
when other certain groups are around. So I guess I have a twofold question. Will those interviews be done in isolation, number one? And number two, will there also be recommendations offered?
Absolutely, Senator. Okay, so one thing that the auditor's office takes extremely seriously is the confidentiality of the information that is provided to us. We have an almost 50-year work paper privilege from disclosure that protects our records from being disclosed. And it's an extremely important aspect of what we do because, as you say, there is a lot of people are afraid to come out with information. They're afraid because they're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid of public scrutiny of what they're going to say. And so our intent with all of our audits, every single one of them, whether it's KDE, CHFS, whoever it may be, and as the general counsel, and I know Auditor Ball does, we take the protection of the information that we receive from constituents extremely seriously. We want to stress that every one of those constituent groups you mentioned, educators, administrators, the staff at school who aren't educators, parents, every individual should feel completely comfortable with coming to us because I will go to my grave making sure that information is protected. We need people to make sure that they can feel like they can speak honestly and openly to us about what's really going on, because that's the only way that we're going to improve education in Kentucky is honest conversation.
And will there be some recommendations offered?
Yes, we are going to issue a full-blown report. Again, one of the most comprehensive performance review of the Kentucky Department of Education history, and we plan on it having many recommendations for improvement. And also to say that we also plan on pointing out what the KDE is doing well, because that's just as important as pointing out on the things that they can improve on. If they know what they're doing well, then they can continue to do what they're doing well. And then our recommendations will also work toward obviously improving their performance so that they know what to improve on.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate what you're doing. I know that members of the General Assembly really appreciate the endeavor that you're about to undertake. And I think this is really, really important, not only to the parents here in the Commonwealth, but to the taxpayers of the Commonwealth who are looking to see what they're actually getting for the money that they're putting in. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Boswell.
This is a new contract,
Yes.
correct? Yes, and how, just curiosity, how did we arrive at exactly $1 million?
Sure. So, okay, there's an interesting financial background on this. So, if you go back to Governor Beshear's April 10th letter, where he issued a letter to the members of the General Assembly saying that there's a list of about 20 bills that he can't execute because he doesn't believe he has the funding to do so. Senate Bill 151, House Bill 825 was on this list. And the governor's office actually projected this to cost the Commonwealth $2 million. But we issued an RFI to the public to see who could respond and what their responses were going to be like. Even though we had non-competitive bidding rights, but we thought it'd be responsible to see what the market had to offer. And we actually were able to secure a bid from Public Consulting Group, which is in my opinion, the preeminent education auditing firm in the country, maybe even the world. They've done, they have 17 of the 20 largest school districts in the nation that they do audits for. They have done performance reviews of Alabama's Department of Education, Ohio's, South Carolina's, Delaware's, a whole host. And what they did is their projected cost for assisting us with this audit was just under $1 million. It was about $862 or something like that. And I have the RFI actually right here that I can provide to the members if they'd like to see it. It's about 240 pages, pretty detailed examination. But they plan on doing a ton of work in this audit. We're going to be working side by side with them. Usually, A lot of the times in the past, it seems like the auditor's office has secured help and then kind of just let the entity run with it, and without much oversight. But we plan on being very involved in this process to ensure that every dollar that we are spending on this audit is actually worth it and it's going to good use. So their RFI details a lot of what they plan on doing in this audit. And so it's probably just easier if I provide that to the members of the committee so they can see.
Thank you for that explanation. I'm just very leery about all these audits that we have, and I'm not yet seeing that much accomplished as far as saving the taxpayers, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I have my own views about this.
Sure.
A couple of questions for you. First is, what's the timeline for completion? When could we expect a report?
So the due date is July 1st of 2025. Well, that's actually the due date that was set out by House Bill 825. But we want to get, and we want to get it as soon as to the members of the General Assembly as soon as possible. But I think that we do also want to take every day that we can to really do an in-depth look of KDE. So July 1st of 2025.
Well, I think this is good legislation and does present a unique opportunity to move our state forward. And I'm curious what is Commissioner Fletcher's involvement in this? Are y'all having dialogue with him? Is he receptive to it? Does he understand what we're trying to accomplish?
Absolutely, Senator. We had, so part of our process is having an entrance conference with the entity that we're auditing, and we had an entrance conference with Commissioner Fletcher and many other members of KDE. They've been completely receptive to the audit so far. They've been very open. There hasn't been, we haven't been blocked off from anything. It's been great dialogue so far, and we're still. I wouldn't say we're in sort of the middle of the audit, kind of. So everything's been great so far. It's been extremely easy working with them so far. So we hope that continues.
And I'm very encouraged to hear that. And he's still relatively new in his position, so I think we kind of give him a clean slate to work with. So maybe we can give him a good plan going forward. But I look forward to the report. And
absolutely,
I know you folks will do an excellent job. Any other questions, comments? Senator Boswell, follow up.
Yeah, just necessarily a question, but a follow up,
Sure.
Just a statement. So it mentions here that the contractor's review will include identifying state and federal mandates, and I'm assure you there's going to be some changes at the federal level as far as these mandates. And I hope there are.
Absolutely.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye, but explain my vote.
Yes.
I hope that in doing this audit, we really follow some of the constitutional guidelines, some of the Commonwealth constitutional guidelines, and not the feeling of what people think. Because
Absolutely.
taxpayers don't mind paying what they're responsible for, but they're getting tired of paying for feelings. Thank you.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you all for being available to us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the pull list are with the Department of Highways and our numbers 6 and 7 on the routine PSC green list. And we'll also discuss 12, 16, 19, 20 through 21, 23, 31, 33, 50, and 52 on the PSC amendment Ivory list. But taking care of business first, and this is a virtual testimony, I do believe.
That is correct. Chairman Meredith, I'm Eric Pelfrey, our Director of Professional Services. And I'm joined by James Edmonds, who is our Project Manager for Contracts 6 and 7.
Thank you for making yourself available to us this morning. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. We'll start with contracts 6 and 7 on the routine PSC green list, and Senator Douglas has questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My first question is, why couldn't you be here?
Well, I have a meeting in 30 minutes here in the building, and I've got a full day. Also, I was advised of the majority of the contracts at 4:42 yesterday, so I'll be providing response on those best I can, but it's obviously very difficult for me to gather project managers from across the state after business hours.
you knew the contract was coming up for review, right?
We submit probably 50 or so contracts each month. So I'm not sure which ones are going to be pulled until they are pulled.
Okay. Well, thank you. My main question, pardon me, if I can, how many? Just two questions. How many bridges are we looking at least just with these two contracts, which total about $6.5 million? And then the second question is, do you have any idea of how much of this was used in the previous year? How much of these funds?
James will probably have a lot more detail on those, but it looks like for the contract with Michael Baker, there were 136 bridges, and I'm scanning through the one with HDR, but it's, James, do you know that offhand? I know it's over 100, but.
Yeah, there's about 150 with HDRs, I believe.
Yeah, it looks like 194 maybe, actually.
Yes.
And then, James, I believe this is a newer type of contract. Is that correct? It's a new federal requirement?
Yes, this contract is to address CIF details, that's constraint-induced fracture details. And this is it's been a known mechanism of fracture in bridges for 20 years now. But our goal is to identify these type of details on the bridges and remove them. So this contract would include plan review, inspection, and then design of the retrofit details.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this not only includes inspection, but you just said it includes design services?
Yes, it does, correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Senator Boswell.
You may have answered this, but I didn't think I missed it. Were there other bidders on these contracts?
We had a total of 4 responses, and we do it's our process for engineers is determined by qualifications. So there is not a cost component until we select the most qualified firm.
Okay, and then one more question. So these numbers that you've given us here, so are these subject to a change order or any type of additional fees? Is it throughout this contract? So what I'm finding with a lot of these contracts is we get change orders, we get things, and we start to add these. Are these bids basically what you consider to be a percentage of what? I mean, what is the basis for this per bridge contract? I mean, how did you arrive at these numbers? It's just a pure estimation of the work that's going to be completed?
James, do you want to take it on at least this type of contract, and I can probably answer to the broader picture from all the engineering services that we provide?
Sure. We developed this list of bridges based upon screening internally throughout our bridge inspection offices throughout the state, and it identified several types of bridges that potentially have this type of detail. Now, the contract and the estimation of includes the inspection, which requires the man hours to do so, as well as some sophisticated inspection equipment, man lifts and leased and snooper trucks at the most. And then as well, we also considered the time to design such retrofits. And we also looked through the contract for many ways of cost savings. We looked to several of these details are similar, and several of these type bridges fall in one corridor. And so that's been a big instruction to the consultants that we look to save funding in reusing a lot of our design drawings. And so the estimation of this, it was a challenging feat because it's such a large number of bridges, but we spent a lot of time and effort into trying to get this number right. so that not to have modifications further on down the road.
Correct. And I think also, Senator Boswell, there's with a large number of structures like this, there is an economy of scale. So if it was potentially 10 structures, we would have paid more per structure. But obviously, we understand that both us and the relationship working alongside both HDR and Michael Baker, there will be an economy of scale. The more structures, the less you pay per structure. And also, I want to add that these contracts are both cost plus a fixed fee, which is a little bit atypical for us. But again, we use that cost mechanism if it's something that's a newer type of project where we don't have as much faith in estimates through using historical estimates that we've done in the past. So since this is new, both of these contracts, which like you mentioned, are in excess of $3 million, the only requirement that we have is to pay for about 10% of that. Everything else, as the consultants perform the work, they submit those invoices to us, and James will review those and approve those per month.
Well, I certainly understand the scale of doing a lot of volume versus a small number. But it seemed, in a sense, since this is a new contract, though, for me personally, it would have made more sense for some of these projects to be done, let's say 10 of them. And then we can see what the costs for those are going to be versus throwing at this huge number. That's my own thought. That's all.
I have a question for you. Back in, I think it was 2016, we identified 1,000 bridges that need to be replaced, and I think a plan was put together to try to obviously address that issue. This is almost a decade back, so where are we now? When we talk about 159, I can't believe that that's all we have that need attention. Are these the most critical? Where are we on that 1,000 threshold?
The 1,000 threshold that has been worked on and continues to be worked on. A lot of those were smaller county bridges at the time, and smaller roadways. The majority of the bridges that are, just to go ahead and say, Kentucky has about 14,600 bridges in our inventory. That's what we inspect, and those belong to county and state. A lot of the bridges in this specific contract are larger bridges. They're long span bridges. They're built out of steel, and we build them out of steel in order to achieve longer spans, and therefore they're on bigger, more highly traveled roads. This is the detail that's in question here is a type of weld detail, and it's known for fracturing. It's known for a brittle fracture, sudden fracture, and it hasn't to date caused a collapse in the bridge, but it has occurred in several of the bridges with this type of detail around the country. FHWA has noted this in a memo to us, and they've also discussed it with us multiple times in past review years. And so this is bridges continue to deteriorate, and we continue to have areas that need to be addressed on them. And ultimately, when these retrofits are completed, we have a more reliable system. We have far less risk to the traveling public, far less safety risk, far less risk of an interruption of their travel.
I appreciate your answer. And again, this is one of those gotcha questions. I'm just trying to get a handle on if we had 1,000 back in 2016, what's the actual number today? And I know that changes every year because as we go out, bridges deteriorate. So for transportation purposes, budget purposes, trying to get a handle on how many bridges do we currently have that are considered deficient?
Well, we have the way we categorize bridges is we categorize them as good, fair, poor, and we submit a transportation asset management plan to FHWA, I believe every 2 years. I'm not as directly involved with that as others are, but that gives a good idea to you all as to what's happening with our transportation network. It's always a moving target, and it always changes. Bridges continue to deteriorate, but we work on our percentages, and I think around 10% to 12 to 13% area is what we submitted last time for our TAMP. That's what's poor, considered poor. That doesn't mean that they're failing or about to fail, but means that they're getting close to the point that something will have to be done.
Well, thank you. Again, I'm just trying to determine whether we're making progress or not, because it's not that long till we'll have to start putting the budget together for the next biennial period, and this is an issue we need to address it. But I appreciate your testimony, appreciate the information. Any other questions, comments? If not, I entertain a motion to approve PSC number 6 and 7.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Representative Chester Burton. Is there a second? Second by Co-Chair Hart. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed will vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
No.
Senator Douglas.
I would explain my vote.
Yes.
You know, gentlemen, I hope, you know, we're looking at $7 million here, and I'm hoping this is sort of a one-time issue, especially given the fact that some of the other things, the 1,000 other bridges have already been inquired about. I also hope that we can do this in a timely way, and we know that there is specialized equipment that's used, but that equipment can be used on more than one bridge over time. So it's not like we're repurchasing that equipment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move on to PSC 12 through 16, 19 through 21, 23, 31, 33, and 50 through 52. And Senator Boswell has questions regarding these contracts. It's on the amendment list, Ivory list.
Are they listed here on a board still?
Yes.
Yes, there's a group of engineering things here, and I have some questions really. Yes, these all have to do with engineering fees on these Department of Highways, and they're all, most of them, I think all these are having to do with increased funds, increased costs as a result of these contracts. And so, who is going to be speaking on behalf of this?
Eric Pelfrey. I'm still joining virtually. Senator
Yeah,
Boswell.
I see you up there. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
All right. So, can you tell me on these contracts, when they were bid originally, are they based on a percentage of the estimation of the amount of work that's going to be done? I mean, how did you arrive at these bids on all these contracts?
Yeah, thank you for allowing the opportunity to explain. I know we've been through this a little bit over the past few months, but from the perspective of the Transportation Cabinet, and specifically from my office and the Division of Professional Services, we use a phased contracting approach. So you're correct that I think the large majority of these contracts are for what we call contract modifications. That's a term that we use on the design side versus a change order on the construction side. And not to pick on my friends down the hall in construction, but I think typically if you do see a construction change order, that's usually a bad thing. It means that we ran into something in the field that we did not expect, and that's going to either add time and or money, and usually both. In my world, in the design side, that is not a bad thing. What we do is we use that phased approach. So in our initial request for proposal, the advertisements that we put out for the consultants to submit their qualification-based selection, we let them know that we are likely going to start with just a what we call preliminary engineering, which is phase 1 design. And then after we complete phase 1 design, which often, if it's a federally funded job, which the majority of ours do, that includes an environmental services component. After we complete that in our NEPA process, then we enter into phase 2 engineering, which could include also structure design, traffic services for signals and lighting, and lots of other components. And again, for the benefit of the cabinet, it's far more effective for both time and money. So just to attack the money portion, I'll mention that if we advertise for a full project, which we actually used to do probably 20 years ago, we would overspend because the consultant, if we're going to enter into a contract, we may assume a certain amount of factors. The consultant is always going to assume worst case scenario. And when they do, that obviously increases their risk, which increases their cost, which then makes it far less cost effective for us as a cabinet. I think that all but maybe one of these projects was directly funded also from our 6-year plan, which thank you all for giving us the authority to go ahead and procure these contracts through that. So by and large, the majority of those projects in the highway plan, we have a total project budget. We only use a portion of that for the first preliminary engineering, that phase 1 engineering. So we know that we're going to modify and use the remaining funds for the phase 2 approach. So again, we use a phased approach, and I understand the concern if we enter into, let's say, a contract for $500,000 and then we add $1 million. From your perspective, you may not understand. You may think that we're tripling the cost, but in essence, we're being more cost effective by understanding which preferred alignment we're going to use rather than studying the entire project. Also, that helps us cut down on the actual time to get it delivered.
You know, when we do a lot of these things regarding these type of services, engineering, architect, it seems to me that there's no real incentive for the engineers or the architects or the construction managers, because the more the project costs, the more money they make. And that's, as I see these, I look at these, and so these contracts, are these renewals with the same company from last year?
So these are each
renewal contracts.
These are not renewals. These are, again, they're contract modifications where we enter into the initial contract because that consultant was deemed the most qualified. Okay. And then that consultant does continue until completion. Of course, we always have the ability to fire a consultant if they're not performing, if they're late, if we think that they're too expensive. There's a whole list of reasons, and that has happened, but that's usually very rare.
So if I may, just my last question. So let's just take number 12. I don't want to pick on them in particular. The original contract was $5,108,000, and today we're increasing that contract by $138,000. Is that correct?
Give me just a second, and I'll pull up the details. I don't know if that's entirely accurate because I don't think that initial contract amount was $5 million. I think that's the total that we're at now.
Okay, so let's say that let's just take that off. I guess
Okay.
what I'm saying is, what I don't understand is, you know, if I'm an engineering firm and I receive a contract for $5 million, I see little reason why that should ever be increased. That's a lot of money to go to a firm, and I'm not saying, I don't know what the profit margin is on a business like this, but I think it's pretty significant. And it concerns me when we have these huge contracts. You would think that these numbers would be sufficient not to have these increased costs that we're seeing on here. And that's what concerns me.
Completely valid concern, and I give you my word that we take this very seriously. We in Kentucky, at least, we have a 15% profit for what we deem our lump sum contracts, which basically, don't want to get into too much detail, but we do an independent estimate, as does the consultant. They have a built-in 15% profit, and that's most states across the country do that. We have a good working relationship with our friends in our auditor's office, and they perform post audits on every contract. And we've been recognized nationally because we actually we average a 17% profit. So even after, like you said, after we've added scope, after there's been increased cost because of it, we still are right within a percent or two of that each year. And I know my assistant director negotiates each of those, and he does an excellent job of coordinating with the consultant, but also our cabinet project manager across the state to make sure that we're all on the same page. And we don't want to be in the business of overspending. For example, on this contract, number 12 with Stantec, the original contract was for phase one engineering for $1.1 million. The actual first modification, we actually took back $419,000 because we removed scope. So that happens quite a bit also. Again, just because we contract for something doesn't mean that consultant's getting that work. We always want to be flexible, and if the consultant is no longer being asked to do those services, they know, and we expect that they will be doing a negative contract modification to get those funds back.
Okay, I understand about the built-in. I'm not crazy about the idea of having built-in. 15 to 17%. In my opinion, if that is end up being the total net profit of a firm, that's pretty significant when you consider the salaries, for example, of the owners and all the costs involved, all the gross costs and all the net costs. That's pretty significant. So that we automatically build in some of these things, percentages. I'm not sure that's the most cost-effective way of doing business for the taxpayers.
Any other questions, comments? If not, entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Representative Pollack, seconded by Co-Chair Hart. All those in favor will vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. No. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollack.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you for being available to us this morning. Very valuable information and always a great education for us. Thank you. Next item on the pool list are with Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Resources, and our number is 21 on the routine PSC green list. We'll also review number 70 on the PSC Amendment Ivory list and number 13 on the MOA 15 under list. And I see representatives are here. Good to see you this morning.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. If you would, please raise your right hand after you identify yourself for the record. Please identify yourself for the record first.
Melissa Trent with the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. I am the Director of Administrative Services.
Jenny Gilbert. I'm the Legislative Liaison in the Commissioner's Office.
Again, thank you for being here. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Senator Boswell has questions.
Can we start with number 7?
Yes. 70 on the PSC green list. Excuse me, 21 on the routine PSC green list. We'll work from that one first.
Okay.
We'll work on the green list.
Yes.
I've got. We'll mix these together, which is what I asked. Okay, number 20, no? 21, there we go. Okay, we're starting with number 21. Okay, well. Yeah, thank you for being here today. The Department of Fish and Wildlife is something I'm particularly interested in because I'm a lifelong fisher and hunter, and I'm very involved in these. And so can you just explain to us, $28,558, I know it's federal funds, but we've got a national move now with the new president to try to get spending under control at the federal level. Can you explain to me what good this does for the people of Kentucky, this study?
So this project is a project with our, let me make sure, this is Eastern Kentucky University with our yellow-spotted woodland salamander. So the Eastern Kentucky salamander, it looks like, is potentially being listed on the endangered species. So this is in our state wildlife plan. We not only address conservation for game species, but non-game. So this would be one of our non-game, and we do have state wildlife funding that is through U.S. Fish and Wildlife. This is Section 6 funding for non-game species. So this is one of those projects that we are, Eastern Kentucky is actually, they are going to do some tagging of these. Let me see what else they're doing on this.
I would like to note that those species that are listed in the State Wildlife Action Plan actually go through U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, and then that document, that plan is approved at the federal level.
Yes.
So this is in connection with that office.
Okay. There's no indication, though, that this particular species is you say that there's indications, but in Kentucky, are there is this a real issue with this particular
Yes.
creature?
Yes.
Which is not, we are the Department of Fish and Wildlife. All our fees and things that are funded, the Department of Fish and Wildlife, come from the people of Kentucky as far as hunting license, fishing
Right.
license, and all that.
Yes, sir.
And was this a fish or a wildlife?
This is a wildlife because it's a salamander.
So it would be considered one of our non-game
Yes.
species in our non-game program.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I continue to be concerned about when I see federal funds to do something like this. There was another one on here I think that we can talk about that's going to be very similar to this, where there's indications that need to be studied, and I did some study myself, and then, well, let's talk about that later. You want to vote on this individually? Huh?
Yeah. Are there any questions regarding number 21 on the PSC green list? There being none, there's a motion to approve number 21 on the PSC green list.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Co-Chair Hart, seconded by Representative Chester Burton. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed will vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
I'd like to vote no, explain my vote.
Yes.
I think we're going to get a control on federal spending for things like this, so I'm going to vote no.
Senator Douglas.
I'm going to vote aye, but I want to explain my vote. I also think there'll be some changes at the federal level. I think we have to start taking a closer look at where expenditures are going and whom those expenditures are helping. But that's a federal issue. So I vote aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
I vote aye because I have a soft spot in my heart for this yellow-spotted woodland salamander. So motion carries on that particular one. I want to continue with number 70 on the PSC Amendment Ivory List. Center.
Yeah. Yes. This is also, well, it says federal, then agency and capital construction. So I'm not sure how that's split. This is another one of those things that I continue to be concerned about. I have been involved in many of these so-called archaeological studies, and especially in regard to the Corps of Engineers having to do with artifacts and things of that nature. I don't quite understand why we're doing so many of these archaeological surveys, and maybe you can shed a little more light on that as to why we should be spending this kind of money.
Okay, so this one in particular, this is a modification, just like Mr. Pelfrey had referenced earlier. This originally was an archaeological survey for 2 projects, and then what we do is we did a modification to add an additional $10,000 for a project. And the reason why it says multiple funding is because this actually covers 3 archaeological surveys. We put out a bid typically for these, and at the time, if we know all of the projects that we will have surveys, we will include those on there. So there's a wildlife one. There is actually an engineering, or 2 engineering ones on this one. So the additional $10,000 was required by, let me see here. We had, this is on our Camp Wallace Dining Hall, and the State Historical Preservation Office, SHPO, required us to do a survey on this project on the original old dining hall before we did the new one.
Well, you got me on that word required. So I realize this is just an increase of something we're already doing.
Yes.
I understand that. So that part of it's not so much a concern as I look at this whole thing and see how much money we're spending on these archaeologicals, and I think it's a waste of money myself. Okay.
Any other questions, comments? If not, I would entertain a motion. Motion by Co-Chair Hart. Is there a second by Representative Pollock? All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed will vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell,
No.
Senator Douglas,
I vote aye, but Mr. Chairman, I have to say that I'm learning a great deal about phase contracts, and I really appreciate what you guys are teaching me because I'm sure I will use that.
Sure you would.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is phase.
Senator Thomas, Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool, Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Last contract we have for you folks is number 13 on the MOA less than 50,000 list. Senator, again, this is yours. Number 13 on the MOA for 50,000 and less.
Which color is that?
Gray.
Gray? Yeah, gray.
So that's number 12. Number 13. Correct?
Yes, 13.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is for the, let's see here, provide funds to document the migratory ecology of the eastern Kentucky whippoorwill. This is
Yes.
the one that I did a little research on, and I found that only one state, I believe it's Vermont, has any indication whatsoever that there's any limiting number of these animals, these birds. So I guess I have a broader concern here about how we're spending money, Department of Fish and Wildlife. Explain why. In the state of Kentucky, our quail population is all but, they're gone. They're practically extinct in the state of Kentucky. Our dove population, based on your own numbers, the numbers of doves that are currently residing or migrating to and from our state is greatly reduced. And so is our waterfowl population. And I really don't understand, since the majority of funds that come into the Department of Fish and Wildlife are from things like hunting and fishing, why aren't we more concerned about these animals that have been a part of our Kentucky heritage for all these years versus spending money? Now, I know, again, this is, well, it says agencies, but can you explain to me why we're concentrating on this particular whippoorwill? And then why are we not doing more to deal with, we know, issues with the quail population, with dove population, with waterfowl populations?
Well, I'm not the biologist, but I can tell you that our game species biologists that would deal with the dove and the quail and the turkey and the waterfowl are monitoring those populations. They are providing information to our commission on a quarterly basis. We are currently in the middle of a study that our turkey biologist and part of our wildlife program is doing specific to just the number of turkeys across the state, and we're seeing positive numbers and feedback from that. I will say, in terms of non-game species, where this might seem odd to some, because when people think of fish and wildlife, they typically think more of our game side. Any conservation efforts or habitat improvement and management of our resources that benefit the non-game species in turn benefit the game species. And we've seen that repeatedly over time in different studies and wildlife management plans that we have used across the state. So I think that just in defense of our non-game biologists, they would argue that both of these studies, while they are specific to non-game, as you indicated, give us great information on the environment and the habitat and how that affects not just the non-game, but the game as well.
And some of the funding for these species is set aside specifically for these non-game species. So in this instance, we also work with a lot of other states within our region through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service out of our Atlanta office. And since this is a species of greatest conservation need, we are tracking this specific project they will be putting tags on these birds and tracking their migration and working with Mississippi Flyway and other partners to see where they are breeding and to make sure that that's a healthy population. So that's what our biologists use these grant. And these grant fundings are usually set aside just for these species that are non-game versus the game.
Okay, well, since this is my last meeting with contract review, I would just like to say that follow up. So, just one small comment regarding what you said. We don't have a problem with turkey population in the state of Kentucky. I'm out there. I know what's out there. But we do have a serious problem with the quail population. For 30 years ago, I was a member of Quail Unlimited. We would have a banquet. We'd have 500 people show up. Today, there are no quail. There is no Quail Unlimited. So, as we look at these things, I would strongly urge, and I've already made these comments to the commission, other members of the Wildlife Commission. Let's try to concentrate on some things that we can try to do something about. The quail population, the dove population, and the waterfowl population. And I don't have any problem with a whippoorwill. I love a whippoorwill. I don't think there's any problem with a whippoorwill. Like I say, my own studies indicated that the only state that has a shortage is, I think it was Vermont. And I don't think there's a problem with the shortage or any other state that I know of. And so I think this is money that's probably not necessarily need to be spent, even though it's not a lot of money. So, thank you.
Any questions, comments? If not, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, because again, I have a soft spot in my heart for the whippoorwill. So, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being
gentlemen.
available to us.
Thank
Appreciate it. All right, the next item on the pool list with the Kentucky State University is number 24 on the routine PSC green list. I see representatives are here. If you would, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, I'm Frances Pinkston.
Make sure your light is on.
Good morning, I'm Frances Pinkston. I'm the purchasing director at Kentucky State University.
Thank you for being here this morning. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Co-Chair Hart has questions.
All right. Thank you so much for being here today. I noticed on the contract this is with Dr. Carol Cobb. Is this the same Dr. Carol Cobb that works for the Centers for Racial Justice and Education?
I do not have that information. I apologize. Most of our senior administration is at the SACS meeting right now in Texas, so I do not have her CV, excuse me. But I do know that she was selected due to her experience in P-12 educational program development, experience in higher education, and other factors that led to her selection.
Okay.
I do not know what other activities she's involved in.
Okay, that's fine. Based on the information I've in our contracts and in the research I've done, I believe she is the same Carol Cobb, and we can verify that at a later date. But I am familiar with the work that the Center for Racial Justice and Education does, and this is more of a comment at this point. I have no interest in supporting an organization that teaches our students that this country is systematically racist, where white supremacy is the norm rather than the exception, and one that judges people by the color of their skin rather than their content or their character. This only gives rise to more resentment, and it doesn't help in healing any of our racial divide in this country. I believe you are aware that the General Assembly has voiced concern about DEI in our public universities, and in fact, we've seen several of our universities move away from these policies in recent months. This contract, I do not believe will do just the. Let me back up. This contract will do just the opposite. It's not going to help provide for any type of racial healing in this country. And for that reason, Mr. Chairman, I will not be supporting this contract, and I have no further questions.
Any other questions, comments? And I certainly appreciate your statement.
May I offer that the focus of this contract is the development of STEM education in teacher education and teacher preparation. So it focuses on the STEM core materials.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Given that we can't validate this is the same Dr. Cobb, would you be agreeable to deferring this until next month so we can determine that?
Yes.
I would like to call for a vote based on the information we have. If it's been proven not to be true, then I won't be here to vote. I would like to vote on it. Assuming that information is correct.
Well, I feel like my information, but I would like my information to be validated, and that's the question in asking you all to come. But I'm prepared to act on the information in my research as well. But I have no objection to deferring it if that's the wish of the committee.
We have two different schools of thought here, so we could have two different possible motions. So who would like to make a motion one way or the other?
I'll make a motion we vote on this today.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Hart. And the motion is to disapprove contract number 70. Is that correct?
20.
Excuse me, 20.
24 on the PSC green
Sorry,
list.
I'm on my long list. 24 on the routine PSC list. Let me say that again. Motion is to disapprove number 24 on the routine PSC green list. All those in favor vote aye of disapproving. You disagree, vote no. Kim, please call the roll. And the motion is to disapprove.
Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
To disapprove contract 24 on the PSC green list. She passed.
Yes. Pass. Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
I'd like to explain my vote right now. So let me just make sure we're clarifying, because I guess I'm going to pass too, because I would prefer to hear specifically what their point is on what this contract's about. Obviously, they're in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. But whatever I need to do as far as this goes, but I'd love to hear from the people on this contract. So if I need to pass, I guess I'm passing.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
I vote aye. And the count is
4 yes, 2 no, or 2 pass.
formal vote is 4 aye and 2 pass, so the motion fails. We need at least 5 to pass the motion. Given that, is there a motion to?
I motion to defer this to the next month.
Motion to defer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Chester Burton. All those in favor of deferring, vote aye. All opposed, vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
No.
Senator Douglas.
No.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Just let me make a clarification before we vote. If this motion doesn't pass, because I want to make understand what happens, this motion doesn't pass, the contract proceeds without action by this committee. So everybody's okay with that. We're neither a yes or a no in that situation. Then I vote aye. Motion fails, so the contract will proceed to finance. So,
Thank you.
thank you for being available to us this morning. Appreciate you being here. Next item on the pool list with the University of Kentucky is number 35 on the PSC green list. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
If you would, please identify yourself for the record.
Barry Swanson, I'm the Chief Procurement Officer for the university.
I'm Craig Collins. I'm the Chief Financial Officer at UK Healthcare.
Thank you for being here. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and not the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. With that, Co-Chair Hart and Senator Douglas have questions about number 35 on the PSC green list.
All right. I understand that anytime you build a new technology, I understand that there's going to be some cost. The cost of this to me seems astronomical, and it's $95 million to be paid to one company over 18-month period. I guess my question is kind of twofold. First, could you take a moment to explain to us the must-haves or what this is going to do, or the benefit that the UK's healthcare system is going to get from this? And then I would like for you to maybe explain to us the bidding process and what set Deloitte apart.
Do you want to explain the project?
Sure, I can start with the project. So this is just recently in the last 2 years, actually in 2020, 2021, we implemented the EPIC system as our health record system of record for our patients and for our providers. Since then, we have acquired both King's Daughters in Ashland, Kentucky, and also St. Clair Healthcare in Moorhead. Both of them now are part of the University of Kentucky Healthcare. And so this project is to extend the use of our instance of EPIC to both of those organizations. It also brings in then the enterprise resource planning tools for both of those organizations. And that tool is basically the general ledger. It's the payroll system. It's the supply chain system for them to really operate their healthcare organizations. Along with that, we're going to put an identity access system, a management system to that. And that's a security system that will overlay the healthcare organization for the University of Kentucky so that we can keep track of what's going on, make sure that we don't have people invading our privacy or into our health records. And that will go across the entire system for healthcare. And so it's really 3 major projects that we're putting into place that will benefit both of those organizations, but there's also benefit then to the university because then we can share records across the organization for our patients as they transfer through those different organizations. It'll also give us a chance to be able to connect to other organizations within healthcare organizations within the Commonwealth with a common platform of EPIC. There are many others that use it, and there are ways that we're able to share healthcare records across the Commonwealth. So that's the benefit that we see in really advancing Kentucky together with our partners in the Commonwealth.
Okay. So really, as I look at this, and I look at the number 95, this isn't just for one project, it's for 3.
It really is for 3, and it's when we look at the distribution of cost, it will be across the majority of us for those 2 new organizations, and there's a little bit that will be a part of the University of Kentucky's healthcare organization.
All right, thank you for that.
Senator Douglas, you have questions, comments?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. $95 million. I certainly support our post-secondary schools here in the Commonwealth, all of them. One of my big concerns in the healthcare space is our dwindling private practice physicians and the increase in corporate medicine here in the Commonwealth. Most people don't spend much time thinking about that. I do, a lot. I guess when I take a look at some of these and I talk to some of my colleagues in medicine, what they're constantly telling me about is or at least asking, why are we funding the public sector to compete against private physicians? And I haven't gotten a good answer for that yet. I know a lot of my colleagues who were in private practice are no longer in private practice because of things such as this. And I'm not sure that this is to the betterment of healthcare distribution here in the Commonwealth. What feedback have you gotten from the private sector? And could you share some of that feedback with us today regarding what the private sector is saying about the disappearing private hospitals?
Sure. I think so. I'm going to speak from my opinion and my support as part of the University of Kentucky Healthcare. But I think some of what we are like to do as an organization is to really go out and build affiliations and build partnerships with other organizations and other physicians within the Commonwealth. And so some of those ways that we do that is through our outreach activities. It's also through our affiliations with the Markey Cancer Center, with the Stroke Network, and different affiliations that we can then take resources out to local communities and really provide support along with some of those private physicians in their communities and be able to have access for their patients that they really need that critical care that might be provided in Moorhead or at King's Daughters or back at the University of Kentucky. So it's how do we build those relationships with those providers, and sometimes these tools help with that. In our outreach, we take Epic with us to really record those activities on those patients and be able to work in collaboration with those providers. And many of them have access to our Epic system so they can see their patients' results too.
May I, Mr. Chairman, one more question, or at least
Yes.
one more comment? All of this sounds really, really, really good, but understand, I again will underscore that I support our institutions. But I hear one thing, and then I understand that we're building onto a very beautiful, very large hospital here in Lexington, and there's been talk of closing some of our clinics in our healthcare deserts, and that concerns me in the healthcare space. And I'm not sure how this is helping us with that. So I guess my big concern is whatever or however we process the future of healthcare here in the Commonwealth, I think we need to take a really a holistic view, and are we best serving our people of the Commonwealth and not just our institutions? I just want to make sure that we're doing that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me answer part of that for Senator Douglas. We have a failing healthcare system. It's on the verge of collapse. And I think things we're trying to do right now are really just Band-Aids to kind of hold it together. I can't even say it's duct tape. It's Band-Aids to try to hold it together best we can. You know, the electronic medical record was certainly an innovative concept. I think it was premature in the application of it system-wide because there wasn't a good system out there. I don't know how many new systems folks have been in, but my small rural hospital, I think they're on their third one since 2012. And we're spending millions and millions of dollars on the administration of healthcare and not seeing tangible results. It's all about return on investment. And from an emotional standpoint, I'd say, let's bury this thing and send a message. But from a practical standpoint, I know that if you don't do this, you've got two other hospitals that you're responsible for that are now going to have to transfer information to you in a very non-productive manner that's ending up costing more than probably the $95 million is. And that's not saying that I embrace this concept at all, but folks, we've got to have a wake-up call. Average American can no longer afford health care, and we're going to make the system collapse. And it's on the verge. And to some people, they celebrate that, but to others, if that happens, we're going to have a national health care system. And when this was first proposed back in Bernie Sanders running for president, the Office of Management and Budget said to support that, every healthcare provider in the United States would have to take a 40% cut in reimbursement. If that happens, there'll be no rural healthcare anymore. So that's a separate issue altogether, and that's the part of the emotional side of it. And we've got to do something. There's got to be a wake-up call. And I don't know what's going to happen, but specific to this contract as to whether it brings value to the system, I have to swallow hard to say I think it does. It gives a return on investment that otherwise is going to cost us more money. So that's kind of where I am. But it's tough. We've spent so much money over the last decade on information systems without I believe, a true return on investment. Maybe we'll eventually get there as we evolve into a good system, but it's not there so far. And instead of buying equipment to take care of patient needs, we're doing this. But again, I know I'm on the soapbox. Getting back to the substance of the contract, I think it has to move forward. So are there any, Senator Boswell?
Just have one question. So is this a fixed contract at $95 million?
This is with them. They take a little bit of risk with us in some ways, and that we're hoping that we'll come in under this amount. We are trying to determine how do we source and resource everything. And in our past implementation of the Epic system back at Lexington, we did come under our project budget, and so we had savings with the vendors at that point.
Yeah, I guess
but
I'm
this is our
sorry not
best,
to interrupt you, but I'm not sure how you're going to accomplish that. Somebody's given a contract for $95 million, and you know, if it's a construction project, you know when they put the foundation in, you know what they put the framing up, the roof on, you know as you go along what percent of the project's complete versus what is the total payment. But I mean, it's just, as I see these numbers, it's just hard for me to understand how you could come up with this exact number. Why couldn't it have been $94,500,000? You know.
So some of this is how we staff are able to really support this project. So we're hopeful that we can find other means to help support this that would be a different expense than what the Deloitte resources would be. So it is not a fixed fee at all. It is one in which we are able to go through the process, and if we can find resources, and in many cases we'd like to hire some of our own resources so we retain them. But this is to get the project up and running and on its feet, and then we'll continue to monitor the spend as we move forward.
I would just like to say one thing. I would hope that in 1 year from the beginning of this time, when this comes up next year, I would like to see, and I won't be on the committee, but I would like to see a report of what this cost. Thank you.
Thank you. Co-Chair Hart.
Just one question, and I apologize. I probably shouldn't have asked these together, but I assume that you had multiple bidders on this, and I was just curious of what set Deloitte apart.
Yes, you know, the committee, I think, is familiar with the process we have in Lexington. We have a pool of consultants that's established, and from that pool, as specific projects come up, that pool is accessed and solicited for projects like this. And so there was a process to establish those master services agreements, and then Craig can talk about how we competitively bid. I think there were six firms that competitively bid, and Deloitte was awarded the contract at the conclusion of that. So Craig will have more specifics than I do.
Sure. So back when we did the original implementation for Lexington, we did have 7 different contractor or consultants that were a part of that pool, and we did go out and interview them. We went through the process of having them all come forward and read the competitive bidding process through that, and Deloitte was selected at that point. As we carry on, and we're actually expanding now basically the system to these 2 other organizations, we felt it was best, since they know us, they were a part of the groundwork of really building the foundation for the system, that we would assume that they would come along with us for this next implementation for the King's Daughters and for St. Clair Health.
Thank you so much. With that, Mr. Chairman, if there's no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Pollack. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the row.
Senator Boswell. No. Senator Douglas.
I vote aye, but I will be keeping my colleagues in the private sector aware of what's going on. Thank you, gentlemen.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Pass.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollack.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you
being
very
available
much.
to us. Committee members, just to remind you, we've got about 30 minutes left in this session. Still got a lot of contracts to cover, so if we can keep our questions short and concise, I would appreciate it. With that, let's move on to the next agenda item. On the pull list with Department of Community-Based Services, and there's numbers 4 through 9 on the PSC Amendment Ivory list.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, please run to the
Thank you for
table.
educating
I'd
me.
appreciate that. Appreciate you being here. If you would, please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Jenny Thornhill. I'm the Assistant Director for our Division for Prevention and Community Wellbeing.
Charity Roberts. Charity Roberts.
Try it again. Three's charm.
Charity Roberts. I'm the branch manager in the Division for Prevention and Community Wellbeing.
Thank you for being here. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. And again, appreciate you being here. And for anyone who's going to be testifying over the next few minutes, I'd ask you to also keep your answers as short as possible. Give me the delivery, not the labor. I'd appreciate it. With that, Senator Douglas, I believe that you have questions, and Co-Chair Hart.
Co-Chair Hart? I'm happy to. Thank you very much. Welcome, ladies. This is federally funded. One of the things I couldn't find out is what percentage is federal funding and what percentage is general fund, because it's both.
So the contracts are both, but the addition with this amendment is 100% federal. So the addition with this amendment is Family First Transition Act funds, which came through the Consolidated Appropriations Act in 2019 to help with implementation of Family First.
May I, Mr. Chairman,
yes,
one more
please.
Question. We see these contracts every year, but I'm not sure if I see a lot regarding the demographics and the geographics of who we're serving. And I guess part of what I look at, or what I get concerned about, is, are we funding lineages? Are we funding linear lineages, or are we funding different groups who are going through this? Because I'm not sure what we are accomplishing other than making it easier to continue in a cycle.
When you reference lineage, you're meaning the providers?
No. I'm suggesting the same families longitudinally, because that's what we're looking at here with Family First, and that is keeping families together. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I guess my concern is how we are using the funding, and what population are we serving? What populations are we serving? Are we continuing to serve people who are in a particular geographic area, who have the same demographics? And if we are, then our program's not working.
So these programs are family preservation and reunification services programs. So they are available statewide.
With all due respect, because we're going to be running out of time, I understand that. I understand that their availability. I'm always arguing that even if you put more healthcare providers out there, that doesn't mean that more people are going to seek health care. So my concern here is, I want to make sure that when we are putting this kind of money out there, that those people who have taken advantage of the program in the past aren't perpetually, longitudinally.
The recidivism.
Yes.
Of their engagement. And I can speak to outcomes that we assess. So we, of course, assess outcomes at the end of services of children remaining in the home, and then we look at it at 6-month and 12-month increments. where they're staying in the home, but I don't know that there's been specific study regarding recidivism of families re-engaging within programs.
So we have no idea what this program is accomplishing. Longitudinally, we do not.
In terms of recidivism and repeat families, I can say since Family First implementation, we've increased prevention service geographically, in addition to serving additional families. Again,
I apologize. I apologize for interrupting you, but again, that to me that it's the same thing as saying if I put more doctors out there, we're going to have better health care, and that's not true, because we don't know if that's going to increase the rate of people who seek that health care. The money is going to increase the availability. Unfortunately, I understand what's going on. The charge that you guys are doing is what you're supposed to be doing. Reach out to as many people as you can. Please, please, please understand that the charge that we have here, sitting in the General Assembly, is to make sure that the programs that we approve work, that they are making a difference. And I apologize if this sounds rude. I don't mean that in any bad way, because we have different charges. We in the General Assembly are trying to look at programs that are out there and assess them as to whether they work, as to whether they are making a significant difference, as to whether they are making a change. And if we don't have that data, it's really, really difficult for us to assess whether a program's making a difference.
I know we're limited on time. If you will just allow me to elaborate just a little bit in terms of repeat involvement, a requirement of Family First is to complete evaluations of specific interventions. So with Family First that we have to use specific evidence-based practices, which we are doing in conjunction with our Office of Data Analytics and 2 universities. So part of that is looking at reduction of maltreatment, reduction of repeat maltreatment, reduction of reentry into care. So those are evaluations that are in progress, but we don't have that data yet. So the things that I spoke to initially, so at the end of services, we have 90% of those children remaining in their home, and in those 6 months and 12-month recidivism rates, they are still in their homes. We don't have much of a reduction in that high percentage rate.
Excuse me, but let's cut to the chase. In your professional opinion, both of you, you think this expenditure is worthwhile? That's sufficient return on investment that we should approve this contract?
Absolutely. Since implementation of Family First, we have reduced entries into care, and we've reduced out-of-home care costs by $40 million. Out-of-home care population dropped from 10,000
what I would
to
suggest
8,000.
again is follow up with Senator Douglas, and I think certainly this is a conversation that we should have with Family and Children Services to make sure they're comfortable with it as well. But again, we need to move on. Senator, can we proceed?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Just one very short question.
Co-Chair Hart has first question.
Most of my question got answered. The only question I really have remaining is, can you elaborate a little bit on why the need for the increase in each one of the contracts?
Sure, absolutely. So in 22, we received additional state general fund appropriation specific to Family First, again in 23 and 24, and we used that to, again, spread geographically, serve additional families, and at the results of that, we are serving additional families, so I did say it increased by 14%, but what we are finding is difficulties in retention of staff, which affects our ability to serve families, or affects our ability to reduce our wait list so that families can access services immediately. So the addition of these funds to address those things, to raise salaries, serve additional families, be able to access clinical staff, especially in rural areas, and attract them to those positions where we have salaries that are competitive. Additionally, aftercare services, so that we're ensuring sustained outcomes, and then also pre-engagement work, so that we are able to reduce ambivalence of families engaging in services, so our providers are not spinning their wheels trying to get folks engaged when they could be working with a family that is on the wait list and ready to go.
All right, thank you.
Senator Boswell.
I'd just like to know how long this program's been in effect. Was this something that came out of COVID? How long is this program? It's primarily a federal funding, which basically I would assume they said we're going to provide federal funds if the state kicks in money. How long has the program been in effect?
So family preservation has been in Kentucky for
over 30 years.
Over 30 years.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to.
I'll make a motion to approve all the contracts.
Motion and a second. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell, Senator Douglas,
Aye.
Senator Thomas, Representative Chester Burton,
Yes.
Representative McCool, Representative Pollock,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries, and thank you for being available to us. And again, I encourage you to follow up with Senator Douglas and also reach out to the chairs, respective chairs of Children and Family Services, because I'm sure they would like to have some
Absolutely.
follow up on
When
this.
we have the outcome of those evaluations, we'd be happy to share them. Thank
All right,
you very
thank you.
much.
Next item on the pool list with the Council of Post-Secondary Education is number 1, and they've asked for this contract to be deferred. Is there a motion to defer?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell, Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas, Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool, Representative Pollock,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. We're moving right along now. Next item on the pool list with Departments of Community-Based Services, and number 5 and 6 on the routine MOA pink list. If representatives are here, please run up here as fast as you can, and
That's just state.
you're back so soon. Then you know the routine. Please identify yourself for the record once again.
I'm Dana Froman with Division of Prevention and Community Wellbeing Branch Manager.
Jenny Thornhill, Division for Prevention and Community Wellbeing Assistant
And
Director.
again, I'd ask you to raise your right hand. Do you solemnly tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Senator Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, ladies. We're not trying to beat up on you. Explain to me how this is different than the previous contracts we were just talking about.
So the same funding stream that we're using here, funding 2 additional contracts. These are moving, the first one, I've got Center of Owensboro on the screen. Joy Closet. You want to talk about?
So yes, Joy Closet it's brand new. It's 100% federal funding. It is really just linking families to concrete supports, financial assistance. They also have an Eagle Fly program, mentor program for children that are aging out of home care, kinship, those type of situations. It's providing in those listed counties on the contract there a lot of those services, again, that are tangible items, assistance, and then the mentor program really helps young adolescents, adults as they come into 18, job skills, seeking jobs, education. Sorry, I'm trying to talk really fast.
No,
This is an agency we already have contact with. They provide services in Western Kentucky to out-of-home care populations. So this is moving into the in-home population that DCBS is serving, or that we don't yet have contact with, so that we can hopefully meet families' needs, avoid crisis down the line, so that they do not become involved with DCBS and child welfare.
Well, thank you very much. So we're going to continue to fund so that the persons who are having these children don't have to take care of their kids. I just want to make sure I've got that straight.
So these are support services available.
So we're going to continue to fund so that people who are having these children don't have to take care of their children. And this is not a criticism. I'm a doc. I am painfully objective. I'm just cutting to the chase. And I'm not being mean. I know it's providing a job for somebody, but the bottom line is that is what we are continuing to do, even though we don't want to talk about it that way. And I appreciate all the work that you ladies are putting in, because I know you're in this with your hearts, and I know if you could do it differently, I have every feel that you all would do it differently. And I just want to say I appreciate you all for the work that you're putting in. I really do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions, comments? Senator Boswell.
So, that one of these courses is my area, but I'm very concerned that as we go into the future, that some of these funds are going to dry up. And I don't want this to all revert back to the state of Kentucky. I think we've got to look at some of these programs. So that's what concerns me.
Duly noted. That being said, is there a motion to approve? Yes, Chester Burton, I'm sorry.
And thank you. In your description, you mentioned mentorship. Can you just kind of explain what that looks like?
So they bring in volunteers, make sure that they're approved, and what they do is that they help them with whatever path that individual is choosing. If they want to do secondary education, if they want to look into job training or job skills, or preparing to get a job, preparing to get out into the world on their own, obtaining housing, things of that nature to get them to set them up. Because once children hit that age of 18, some of them do not stay with that placement that they're in, and they need a support system. A lot of those children becoming adults do not have that super rich support system.
Any questions, comments? If not, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion and a second by Chester Burton. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
I'm going to vote aye, explain my vote. I do think there's a lot of duplication of services, but for now I'll vote aye.
Senator Douglas.
I vote aye, but in explanation of my vote, I realize that we've had a system that was created and has been perpetuated that has allowed this to happen. And it is very difficult to withdraw that system in a fast or timely fashion. But I do think we need to consider how long we perpetuate this system that really isn't helping. Thank you.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye. Motion carries. And ladies, thank you for being available to us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item on the pool list, Department of Local Government, is numbers 10 and 13 on the routine MOA pink list. Representatives are here. Please come forward. Identify yourself for the record.
Matthew Stevens, General Counsel.
Appreciate you being here. Again, if you would, please raise your right hand and do solemnly swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
The first is with the number 10 on the MOA pink list. And this is a $100 million appropriation to Louisville, Jefferson County Metro government. And my question is, the very broad description is to help revitalize downtown Louisville, but what's that mean in practical terms? What are we doing?
Yes, sir. So this is from House Bill 1 as amended by Senate Bill 91. The Kentucky General Assembly appropriated $50 million in each fiscal year for a total of $100 million to specifically identify projects. So those projects were identified in the budget bill or House Bill 1 as the Belvedere Community Care Campus, Lou Med Campus, Louisville Gardens, Downtown Vacant Building, Revitalization, and Butchertown Sports District.
I guess my interest is more the flow of the dollars and accountability. You've got several different projects in here. Are each one of these going to be bid separately? And if they are, they're going to come back to this committee?
No, sir. So this contract is for the appropriation to the city of Louisville. During our application process for the money, they give us details on the projects, and they will bid those out separately, the city of Louisville.
So we have a list of projects that they're going to be working on, correct?
Yes, in House Bill 1.
Is there any possibility of deviation from that list? What I'm getting to, I don't want to give anybody a $100 million blank check and say, well, we said we're going to do this, but we decided we're going to do this instead.
No, so it's my understanding, working with the city of Louisville, that these are the projects that the money will be used for.
And how do we validate that?
So our staff will do monitoring, so that they will look at receipts, invoices, look at how companies were procured, go down the list.
So you're looking at the bidding process as well?
Yes.
Okay. Can you go through that list again very quickly?
The Belvedere Community.
Let's start there. The Belvedere.
Yes.
So they're going to give you, they're going to do a request for proposal to do what to the Belvedere?
So the Belvedere, so let me just read from our description. The Belvedere was originally opened to the public in 1973. The center of downtown Louisville, nearly 6-acre multi-use park, is hosting several festivals, concerts, and community gatherings. This money will be for new construction, design fees of the Belvedere, equipment, inspections and surveys, renovation work, construction related to access to and from the Belvedere in downtown and the riverfront.
So there'll be multiple bids for this, different phases of the contract. You folks will review that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. That's what I need assurances of. We're giving somebody $100 million. I just want to make sure it's going for what it was intended for, and want to know what the checks and balances are, but that's all I have specific to that one. Chester Burton.
Thank you. Can you also, you have Louisville Gardens in here. Can you also give a description of what that looks like?
So in our description that was provided by the city, it's a redevelopment of the Louisville Gardens into a studio that will house sound stages for music, film, and digital production. Projects is expected to feature up to 40,000 square feet of state-of-the-art sound stage space, museum, production offices, outdoor filming options. Will generate direct skilled tech and professional jobs in production and wide scope of employment in supporting and related industries.
Okay, you can stop there.
Yep.
So it looks like something regarding like an entertainment venue? When you said sound and production and...
Yeah, that it will house sound stages for music, film, and digital
Okay.
production.
Thank you.
Any other question regarding this contract? Not entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Is there a second? Second by Representative Chester Burton. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the row.
Senator Boswell.
I'd like to explain my vote.
Please.
We've already voted on this because it was part of the Budget Reserve Trust, but I do think there's a lot of fluff.
Senator Douglas.
Pass.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
I'm an aye. I just want to explain my vote as well. I'm very concerned that this last budget process, we've had several contracts that just say appropriation in the budget, and it appears that we're not given the opportunity to review these in any kind of detail. And I hope we take a look at this during the next budget process and hopefully give some more definition of this. But with that, I'm an aye, and motion carries. And thank you for being available to us this morning. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, you have one more. My apologies. Number 13 on our MOA pink list, City of Jackson, Senator Boswell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, as I look at this project.
Sir, Chair, may I address this contract? So this contract was pulled late yesterday evening after business hours. I wasn't able to get the information for this project. So I'm not going to be able to answer any questions.
So would you like to defer?
Well, I think you probably be able to answer, because just bring us up to date about this is apparently part of the flood relief program, right?
Yes, and as a result of that, these projects, several agencies are involved in the project.
Right.
To get information, I would need more than an hour's notice to get it. But I'm not familiar with this project to answer questions.
Pressure makes diamonds.
Yes. Well, the concern I had was simply that taking an old building, you're remodeling it, it's going to be an average cost of $350,000 per unit, and I wasn't sure who's going to own the units after this is all over. So if we need to defer, if you're not able to ask those questions, I would say this.
Is it a motion?
It's a motion to defer.
Motion to defer. Is there a second? Second by Co-Chair Hart. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the row.
Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. Ms. Stevens, again, thank you for being available to us this morning. Next item on the pool list, Department of Education, and ours are numbers 38 through 45 and 47 through 52 on the routine MOA pink list. And apparently it takes a village.
Good morning. My name is Karen Worth. I'm with the Kentucky Department of Education.
Good morning. My name is Beth Engel. I'm also with the Kentucky Department of Education's Office of Career and Technical Education.
Lauren Graves. I'm the Policy Advisor for KDE Office of Career and Technical Education.
Thank you for being here. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Is that you? Yes, Senator Douglas and Senator Boswell will have questions. Senator and Co-Chair Hart, Wow. Yeah, let's do it this way first. Let's do 38
45.
through 45. This is Representative Hart, Co-Chair Hart, and Senator Douglas. So let's start with those first.
All right. I just have one question. I noticed that the funding level ranges from like 57,000 to 658,000. How do you determine who gets what, how much goes where? I mean, because that's a wide range.
Sure. So there are two factors to that. One is based on enrollment, and that's weighted full-time equivalent. And so that's 60% of it. And then for the other component, it's performance indicators with that. So it really depends on enrollment and their performance indicators.
Okay, so I guess whoever applies for these funds, you would, I guess, rate them or.
Well, it's distributed throughout
It's
the state
okay.
for the career tech
Okay.
centers. Yes.
All right. Thanks.
Senator Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, ladies. I always enjoy seeing you here. Chairman Hart, Co-Chair Hart actually asked one of my questions, so that only leaves me one more. Could you explain the program for the people of the Commonwealth?
Specifically, the CTE funding formula program. Okay. So a few years ago, there was a historic investment made into career and technical education by our elected officials, and everyone was so thankful for that. CTE funding received an additional $70 million or so for CTE, or career and technical education in Kentucky. So the Department of Ed's Office of Career and Technical Education was tasked with how do we distribute that money out to the local school districts. And the legislative body decided upon, with the recommendation from the Office of Career and Tech Ed, to look at the CTE funding formula, which was 60% of those funds will be allocated to school districts that have career and technical education based upon the enrollment within those programs. And we call that the weighted FTE, or the full-time equivalent. The other 40% of funds would be distributed based on incentives earned through the programs of career and technical education. Do students earn industry certifications? Are they successful in passing the inter-program assessments that are articulated? Are they getting CTE dual credit opportunities? Are they experiencing work-based learning? So all of those accountability incentives are kind of the guardrails that the legislative body asked for the CTE funding formula, and that is how the funds are distributed among the districts.
Thank you very much. That was nice and concise. One last question though. Is there any 4-year follow-up of the students who complete the program?
You know, that is a great question. Yes, there's absolutely follow-up on these students. That data is housed with KY Stats. It is reported by the local districts and the area technology centers, and I do believe some post-secondary education institutions, where we follow up on students to see how successful they are. And I can say that historically, and it is proven by data, that students that participate in career and technical education outperform students typically who do not participate in career and technical education. They are employed at a higher rate, 7 years. Post-graduation, they are employed with higher wages post-graduation 7 years out. So yes, we absolutely track that.
Thank you very much, and thank you for a worthwhile program. That's refreshing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions or comments regarding that series of contracts? You do? Question? Feel free.
So there's a lot of talk about career and technical education, but what concerns me going forward is that I see certain parts of what I consider career and technical education lacking. And for example, in the trades, I see very little work in the masonry category. Brick masons, for example. I just recently visited a school. They decided to have a pretty much all concrete block, and it's very difficult to find brick masons. So as we go forward, I'm hoping that we concentrate more on the real trades, electricians, masonry, carpenters, plumbing, heating, because this is where we really need it, and I'm not seeing that myself. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Not entertaining motion?
Motion approved.
Motion to approve is second. And the second by Senator Douglas. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. We'll continue with the discussion on the contracts 47 through 52. Senator Boswell, I believe these are your pooled contracts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, as I look at these numbers, 47 through 52, and they're all federal contracts, I read this and I just kind of like shake my head as to understand exactly what's involved here. So just for example, this says that it provides evidence-based school safety and climate plans. Can you explain to me what that means?
Sure, I'm happy to. First, I'm Matthew Courtney. I'm the Policy Advisor to the Office of Continuous Improvement and Support at KDE. These are 6 awards out of 28 total awards to public school districts in Kentucky that come from this Stronger Connections Grant program, which is part of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act of 2022, which was the federal response to the Uvalde shooting. Under this program, all 6 of these contracts, these districts are using their funds to work towards the legislature's stated goal of a 1 to 250 mental health professional to student ratio. So that would be the evidence-based school safety action that these 6 districts have chosen to take here to hire mental health professionals. And then you'll see there's some additional budget items in the contract. Those are all in support of the work of those mental health professionals.
Thank you, that's helpful. Just my concern is same on this as some of these other contracts. As we go in the future, it's clear evidence to me by the new federal government and people that are taking over with some of these things, that some of these programs are going to be looked at pretty seriously, and I think some of the federal money is going to start to drive. So that's all. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? If not, entertain a motion. Second?
Second.
Second by Representative Pollock. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed will vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell.
I explain my vote. I think if it's to go into the future, we need, as a state and as a legislature, we need to help. We're going to have to help the federal government to start looking really seriously at some of these programs, and everything can't survive, and this might be an example of something I think probably should not survive.
Senator Douglas.
Pass, don't want to kill it.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. And Karen, will ask you to remain at the table because we need to cover a series of contracts on the yellow list, MOA amendment list, 56 through 75. Representative Hart has questions.
Yeah, just real quick. You look at all these contracts as a whole. It's like a $291,000 increase. Can you just explain what the increase is being used for, or what the need for the increase is?
I'm Crystal Rowland. I'm the Director of Program Standards in the Office of Teaching and Learning. So this is part of the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant, and 5% of that grant amount is for administrative purposes. And over the period of the grant, we found significant cost savings. So we've been able to allocate those dollars across our participating local education agencies for their use in completing their program goals.
Okay. And just one real quick question. Are we moving the needle forward? Are we getting a positive outcome like we're hoping for with it?
So part of this grant, sustainability is part of that driving force. So we're really supporting districts in creating structures and processes and equipping their folks to do this work forward. We do know that there are small measures along the way that they are looking at and reflecting on, and then they revise their literacy plans and share that with us along the way. So ultimately, long term, we see an impact here, but also for districts, they are bringing in new processes to reflect their work and their goals so that they can make those shifts that they need to ensure continuous improvement at the local level.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chairman, if there's no other questions, I'll make a motion for approval.
Any question, comments? If not, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
second by Representative Pollock. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the row.
Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. And Ms. Worth, I think we got one more set of contracts of the Department of Education. These are 9, 10, 11 under the memorandum of agreement for $50,000 under.
Yes, sir.
And Representative Hart has questions. If you
All right.
would, please identify yourself for the record in normal routine.
Jennifer Ginn, Director of Communications at KDE.
Glyptis Ann Grider-Jones, Interim Director of Education Policy and previously Awards Director under the Division of Communications.
Okay, if you would, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. Co-Chair Hart.
I'm just curious. I mean, there's 3 contracts. That's about $1,500 per contract. Are we paying districts to write one article, multiple articles, is one of my questions. And the other question is, I don't quite understand why we're paying districts to write an article, because I would think it would be an honor to write an article.
These are actually for the Teacher Achievement Award winners for the 2025 cycle. In the past, we have had a sponsor who would pay for an award to the teachers who were selected. That sponsor dropped out. This was a one-time funding by KDE to keep it going. So we had to do the contracts with the districts, and the districts provided to the Teacher Achievement Award winner. They help write articles for us. We hope to use them in our teacher recruitment and retention marketing campaign that's coming up. So it is going to the teachers. We just could not provide it to the teacher directly. Had to go to the district.
Okay, and like you mentioned, it's just a one-time funding to keep the program alive. Well, I guess you find another sponsor.
The plan is to work on finding another sponsor. It just gets a little tricky when you're trying to ask for money instead of giving it as our agency. But that is that's what we're working on. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bob said-
Any comments, question, motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve is second by Representative Pollock. All those in favor of the motion vote aye. All opposed vote no. Please call the row.
Senator Boswell.
Aye.
Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Thomas. Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries, and I believe you're dismissed. Thank you. Folks, please bear with me. We need about 5-10 more minutes. We'll be done. Next is the Behavioral Health Development and Intellectual Disabilities. It's number 19 on our MOA yellow list. Representatives are here. Please come forward. If you would, please identify yourself for the record.
I'm Patty Clark. I'm the Director for the Division of Mental Health within the Department for Behavioral Health, Developmental, and Intellectual Disabilities.
Jordan, I'm the Program Manager for the Children's Mental Health and Recovery Branch within the Division of Mental Health.
Thank you for joining us. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I request this contract be pulled, and it's kind of straightforward. Under the description, it says no increase or decrease in funds. However, there's a decrease in federal funds of $29,000, but we're going to add general funds in at the same amount. And you folks have been here throughout the morning. You know we've got some concern about federal funding disappearing, and then an expectation that the general fund is going to pick this up. So it's at this particular situation that federal funding has been discontinued. So our general fund is going to have to inherit this expense.
No, sir. We had a small overrun of about $30,000 on this contract in the overall $2.9 million contract that resulted from the misalignment, if you will, between the grant cycle, the state fiscal year and the federal fiscal year, that required us to, and also last year's contracting procurement process that required all new contracts to be done by February. So as a result of that, we had to overestimate the costs that we were going to ask for. And so we contracted for those federal funds. And when we came back, realized we needed to cover some expenses. So this is a one-time cost of about $30,000.
All right. Thank you. And
You're welcome.
God bless you. Is there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second by Chester Burton. All those in favor vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell, Senator Douglas,
Aye, and I will hold you to the one time since I'll be chairman next year.
Absolutely.
All right.
Senator Thomas, Representative Chester Burton,
Yes.
Representative McCool, Representative Pollock,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. And ladies, thank you for being available to us this morning. I know you've been here a long time. One last item of business, folks, and that's we have an exemption request. It's number 11 on your agenda. This is Public Pension Authority's request. We can't extend contracts beyond the biennial, so this allows this to happen. It's routine. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Motion. Second. All those opposed vote aye. All opposed vote no. Kim, again, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell,
Aye.
Senator Douglas,
Aye.
Senator Thomas, Representative Chester Burton,
Yes.
Representative McCool, Representative Pollock,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith.
Aye, motion carries. Before we adjourn, please know that our next meeting is Tuesday, January 14th, 2025, and we're not sure what happens on the House side. We know what happens on the Senate side. Senator Boswell will be leaving. Thank you for your service on this committee, and Senator Douglas will be the new co-chair of this committee. So I want to thank them for their service. Also, just like to take a moment to thank our staff. They do an incredible job for us, and it's truly one of the best committees I work with, and appreciate the job you do. With that, I think you want to make a comment.
Well, you kind of already made it. I just wanted to thank Senator Boswell for his service with the committee, and we'll miss you. And I don't know if it's congratulations or condolences, but we're glad to have you as the new co-chair, Senator Douglas.
Senator Boswell.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Did we defer 62 in pink? I think we might have missed that one.
No, we deferred that one.
Okay, good.
That's Jackson, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, with your permission, may I just have a short opine? I'll try to keep it as quick as I don't know. We have other meetings we need to go.
As long as it's not as short as Douglas's and shorts are.
That's okay. Well, first of all, it has been a privilege to serve on this committee. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate all the hard work you've done. But with your permission, I'd like to opine just about this government contract with Biddy just for a minute. I've been a member of this committee for almost 2 years. I think this whole process is flawed and it needs revamping. How so? First of all, asking the members of this committee and the staff to review these contracts with the depth needed in such a short period of time is untenable. Even if we challenge a contract, most will be paid anyway. I'm primarily a businessman. I'm used to scrutinizing contracts in detail. Very few details are given, even though the staff does a great job with the information they receive. Some of the contracts mention that other bids are received, but we have little or no information on the bids. If the contract is a renewal, what was the actual cost of the previous year? Who is negotiating these contracts on behalf of the taxpayers? Is anyone going to try to tell me that a $4 million contract can't be negotiated for $3.9 million? How many of these contracts are given to major political donors? Seems like there's very little scrutiny of federal contracts. We must change this in order to help our DOGE committee to cut out wasteful spending, and Senator Rand Paul said recently that it begins at the state level. It seems like when we have money, we spend it. This money belongs to the taxpayers. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, I think changes need to be made. I have several ideas about how to improve this process and save a lot of money. First, for example, the Attorney General has a contingency for law firms when they receive a percentage of dollars they bring into the state. We need to either hire a contingency firm or our own personnel to examine every contract. Just for example, now, we have a law, or basically a bill, that says we can only allow $125 an hour for legal services, but every meeting we've had this year, we have issues with law firms that were approving contracts with law fees that greatly exceed that. After contracts, there'd be no additional fees should be allowed in contracts involving construction managers. And we need to eliminate set rates for engineering, architectural, and construction manager fees. Lastly, we should require additional information on every contract. Now, we can't obviously take every one of these contracts and put all this detailed information, but I think we need to have a way for this information to be submitted in a contract review, or maybe put online, so that when we have some of these questions, we'll be able to maybe get online ourselves and maybe get more details, and that way we can save some time when we come to this committee. So anyway, I had some other things, but I think I'm gonna stop right there. Again, thank you so much for allowing me to serve on this committee, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you all. And with that, we'll end with a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone, and appreciate everyone's service, and particularly our staff again. With that, we stand adjourned.